We're getting a lot of headlines today about the airline industry. We covered how Boeing had some sweeping changes to its management team. The CEO, Dave Calhoun, set to step down at the end of the year. Of course, the company has been dealing with all sorts of headaches. One great example, the panel on one of its jets that blew out in mid-flight. The company also announcing that the chairman, Larry Kellner, is going to be exiting the company, as will the head of Boeing's commercial airline division. I want to bring in John Gradek, who covers the airline sector. He's a lecturer and coordinator of the aviation management program at McGill University. John, it's great to have you back with us. What was your reaction to the CEO change at Boeing?
Not unexpected. I think that, Boeing has to really find a way to get back in the good books of both its customers, the flying public, and the regulator. And people have been talking about the Boeing culture and the need to change the Boeing culture. The first step is really looking at, the leadership and get a change of leadership in place.
Now, I guess for those who are trying to figure out what ultimately this issue of safety means and getting it right longer term, because even today we had some reporting from our friends at Bloomberg about how the FAA in the United States is clamping down on United over safety concerns. As much as this is a story we look at through Boeing today, is the story of airline safety as prominent as it has been in years right now?
I think it's been prominent for at least the last 5 years, ever since we had those Boeing 737 MAX crashes in 2018 and 2019. I think that put the microscope under companies like Boeing to kind of come up with a better story and a better production process, and and keeping the regulators informed as to what they're doing with the airplane. We know that Boeing essentially lied about the MCAS system when they put them on board the airplanes, and they were fined. They were there's pending probably criminal action to be taken to Boeing on that issue. And since that issue, it's been a game of of tag in terms of between the regulators and Boeing in terms of trying to figure out how safe are the Boeing airplanes coming out of that production line. Yeah, and I think that this is an issue.
And then obviously when we're watching this all unfold from Canada, there is the question of what some of the ripple effects are. How would you describe how the Canadian government has been approaching safety issues?
They've been, strangely quiet in this case. I think that, there is a need for the government to kind of express an opinion, at least, if not take action, about what the FAA is seeing coming off the production line. The Canadian government typically looks at the FAA to certify the airplanes coming off the Boeing production line because it's a U.S. manufactured airplane. In my opinion, I think there has to be some Canadian oversight in terms of a recertification of that airplane to ensure that it's meeting the Canadian standards. So yes, that process of doing an automatic on the FAA is nice, but it seems that the FAA and Boeing have fallen asleep at the switch on some of these issues, and I think Canada has to step up to the plate.
What do you think about all of these issues, including if a carrier like United, as Bloomberg is reporting, might have some challenges in growing its number of routes heading into the summer if they themselves are facing a clampdown from the FAA? What do you think that means for summer travel? Because on the one hand, people are worried about an economic cool down, which obviously might impact the airline industry, but it's been pretty tight these last few summers for airline travelers, and I would imagine if safety first, which is always important, is on the priority list, that could impact the number of carrier flights that we're seeing, or could it?
Yes, it could. I think the FAA has basically told United, no growth for the foreseeable future for United in terms of either new routes or new airplanes, of course. And I think United had an order for about 100 airplanes, new airplanes this year to be delivered, and that's been put on limbo. I think it probably would be canceled. So United is running short of airplanes, and they've been told by the FAA to hold off on any new routes until such time as the FAA certifies that United's maintenance practices are up to snuff. So I think that the industry is in for a little bit of a rough ride this summer. I think that the FAA is under the microscope and is taking action that will be something we've never seen before. And I'm not sure what the end result's going to be. I think that there is going to be a change in the way that we, in fact, certify and maintain airplanes. and that will definitely have an effect on the availability of airplanes that fly for the summer.
Yeah, I guess if you were picking the next CEO of Boeing, because they haven't named a replacement yet, what is the fabric of that person? What kind of leader are you looking for?
I think that when you're looking at the Boeing saga in terms of what's been going on over the last 15 years, the people that have been running Boeing at the executive level came out of the McDonnell Douglas mode that happened in 2003, 2004. They're financial in nature. We needed people that are operating, people that are production, people that know what's going on the shop floor. I think that the fact that Mr. Calhoun is hanging around until the end of the year is more of an issue about people getting interest back in the stock price of Boeing. They want to see the stock price back up, and this announcement for a year-end departure is interesting. But in terms of what the next generation of CEO should look like, I would use a model. We have a great president of Boeing Canada. And I think that he should be considered probably a candidate for that Boeing job, because he's done an admirable job of making sure Boeing has got its mojo here in Canada. And I think that could be applied in the U.S.
That's